Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Japan. I hope you're enjoying this series. I'm enjoying playing it. I know viewership is down. I knew it was going to be down. I'm a little surprised at how far down it is. Only about a third of what I was getting as Germany when we were doing exciting stuff. And I know Germany's gets the most popular, but if I just play Germany over and over and over and over and over again, it's also going to go down too. So, if you're following along the series, watching at that sort of time, you'll realize I sort of missed a few days. And that was multiple reasons. Not really burnout in the classic YouTube burnout from playing this thing. Much more just other work and other stuff all sort of squeezing in on me. And it just didn't get stuff done. And I could have got it done. I could have made the thumbnails. I could have got an episode cranked out, but I just wasn't feeling it. So, like I say, not real burnout in that sense, but just like, yeah, I could struggle and get it, but that might burn me out if I don't sort of take it sensible, if we will. Okay, so let's continue this. Just stopped the attacks that I was doing here, which was across the river and into mountainous territory, which I knew it would be bad, and we had a major defeat here. As you can see, these units were about done in. I just had 2 divisions attacking, and similarly on here. And the reasons I was doing this was mostly to stop retreats, and particularly into this province here now. Let's add you to move to here. Okay. Okay, the garrison unit can hold, I think, against an attack here again across the river, so that would be good. We are moving up some HQs, because I'd love to have an HQ for this thing, because we not only have cavalry, nice, good soldiers on horseback, we also have armored cars, and having an HQ would make it good. I don't know, with as fast as a unit as this, we are having a lot of river crossing speed penalties. If having a transport type unit would actually help speed it or not. So I haven't built them transport units for these guys. Now if I was going to attach artillery or other sorts of slower type support units, I definitely would recommend highly having some sort of transport unit as well. But right now I'm just sort of hoping that getting an HQ in there won't be much of an issue for speed. And I'm also to a point trying to be realistic about things. How much to spend on ICs? Sure, in a way I'd love to take all those cavalry units and add artillery and add horse transport and anti-aircraft guns, or maybe even anti-tank guns, or and sort of create a faster than infantry, little weaker than infantry, but a good all-around sort of division. And there's good reasons to do that, but I'm sort of looking at, I got not that many ICs, and what is the purpose of the units? Well, my main purpose is what I want to use them, though these guys are defending here and they're getting hammered for it a bit, is to pursue rapidly into the enemy rear, but also to beat up on, shall we say, a bit of a weaker opponent. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that well enough. Beat up on the weaker opponents, whether with them or just generally speaking. I'm a little disappointed here. Mostly because they're defending. I think we're going to push a little north and help this attack. But if I take the capital, I'm hoping again that we can have them collapse. And as we knew, they're counterattacking, but we got some decent units, sorta, here. I also wanted to show off this battle here, just as a thing to remember. We're attacking this pocket, and obviously we're doing it from the, landward side, so we're not having an invasion penalty, but we're having a shore bombardment by sticking these coastal battleships off here, just to sort of remember that. Oh good, they can start moving now. Again, they had attacked and won and started to move, and then lost supply because I didn't handle things well. I moved in these guys just to sort of occupy. Okay, good. Leaving the Marines here because I'm going to use them hopefully soon to do another invasion. Once they kill that pocket, these guys are going to go try to take out Weihai. Gain us an air base and port and that good stuff there. Good, we could use those infantry tanks to bash through and deal with all that. Oh, I also want to recommend, and I know I've said this before, I'm going to say it again and probably say it in future. When playing Black Ice, the more saves you, it seems to be, the more saves you build up in your save folder, the more likely you're going to have problems saving the game. It just seems that way. I don't empirically understand why it would. I may have something to do with finding and going, because you have the autosave, old autosave, older autosave, or whatever they're called, and it sort of cycles through, it renames eventually, deletes one, and renames, goes through and has 3 autosaves you can go back to. It may have something to do with that, just how many stuff and how long it's taking for the game to read the folder. Maybe that's it, because it goes, oh, well, what's in this folder when as it's getting ready to save, and it goes, oh, let me see, let me find those 3 files, but it has to read the folder, and that may take time, and taking that time may be what's contributing to the crashes. I'm sure it's a combination of Black Ice overstressing things, and as we saw for a while, one of the major reasons for corrupted, and it could, corrupted saves of different types. We were using, no, I wasn't. I know that I wasn't because my text editor can't. But there are typesets, character sets that you can use, but you're not supposed to use, and it has trouble saving that. And I could look it up, and I forget right now. But what was some of the problems was unit names that would have, various umlauts or other sorts of accents to the letters of names, or possibly in the text files format that it's having to save things, so being correct in somebody's, proper Hungarian alphabet, and I know that because some of the file formats are specifically used in Hearts of Iron 4, and why I know that I didn't contribute to it in Third Reich Events, because I've had to convert to using an additional text editor. I still use the one I have for certain file types, and I'm just blanking right now on what the file type was that there was the problem. So I know Third Reich Events wasn't contributing to it. And so if you had saved it in the other format, it would work, obviously, because it has been working, but it's not supposed to be in that file format. So that was causing some of the problems with the stuff. And there's a couple of things in this. My friend Nagaro was having problems in that he has a save that he can load. I tried the save, but my game was modded. It loaded the save, but there was no factions, and he was in the middle of Russia playing as Germany. Germany was not in a faction. There were no factions. Oh, and there were no units anywhere on the map board. So yeah, it sort of choked through and loaded it for me, but I've changed this just enough off of what he's using, plus my GGA is a beta version, and so I don't know exactly why it was so messed up. So mine wasn't a fair criticism, and his for him loads fine, plays fine, but crashes on saving. And see, what happens is sometimes, and I've had this similar things happen to me, is that if you are you may load something, but that you may load a save, but that save is corrupted somehow, and it loads, it plays, but once you try to save it, because of the corruption that's been introduced, it won't save in the future. That could be some of the problems, as opposed to just crash on loading, or you know, when you try to save it, it chokes and creates a zero size file or whatever. You know, there's various things that can happen. So we fixed some of the problems. The one that I specifically know of is using funky save funky font type, or whatever you want to call it. It's not character sets, and that use some characters that it doesn't like in that programming language. For some things, Hearts of Iron 4 likes those, and some things in Hearts of Iron 4 it doesn't like it. Don't use it for whatever it is, and unless you're a modder, it doesn't matter in Hearts of Iron 3. So they went through and corrected it, and so some of the names of some units or people or places or whatever aren't quite as set to the local language as they could be, because needing to go to another another type. It sounds redundant, but isn't. So you don't want to have a lot of saves in your save game folder, but you want to keep all your old saves. Why? Because if you've introduced a corruption that's worked, and it may even work for a save or two, but then all of a sudden you get can't go past, can't save. And now I got one of those, but I that ended the Germany series, and I could go back to an earlier save, play it up and save just fine, but once you get past, and I forget right now the date, and it talk about it in the thing, but get to, you know, December 3rd or whatever it is, that day and beyond, if I try to save it on that day and beyond, it crashes. So that means something's going on, that it's looking for something like, oh, on December 3rd of 1944, or whatever the year is, or later, load in, you know, this division, or load in something, and it's done something somewhere in the game, could be anywhere in the game, that then you could still play as long as you want to play, but as soon as you try to save it, either autosave or regular, it'll crash. So it was introducing something corrupted, and my thought was an OOB text file loading type of thing, that when you created Mei Zhang here, it created all these units here, and maybe it just had a bad unit name or something in it. I just didn't know what to look for at that point, and unfortunately, sorry about that, couldn't get support in a timely manner. Still haven't gotten to figure out what might be happening on or around that date that could introduce something, that go in and look for it. But so some of the stuff can be save game induced and not what I had. So save all of your, don't delete your old, don't overwrite, don't delete your old, because also overwriting may cause a problem in your non auto saves. So don't do that either. Don't say, oh, current save, current game, new game, or what. Don't just save it. Normally, maybe put, like I do, and a few extra characters on it. And then at some point, get 6, 8, 10, whatever, save games. Grab all of the non-auto saves, all but the last, say, 2 or 3, and move them. I'm just call it alt. Mine is alt save folder. It's in the same directory, not as a subdirectory of the save game folder, but it's just in that same directory thing. I just move them all over there so that the game never sees them, but I can always go back to them. So whether it's like, oh shoot, I should have pushed whatever button, or I pushed the wrong button and it somehow does something bad, I can go back to an older save. Or if I think I've introduced something that is bad for the game, I can go back to it. And so you want to keep the ability to go back to older versions. No, we don't want to go there. Go around that. Oh no. Go around. Yeah, just go around that. Because they're counterattacking. We don't want to go to that province right now. So always do that, but don't don't get rid of your saves. Don't let them stack up, but don't get rid of them either. Okay, let's see if we can take that. They have Communist Chinese have really high territorial pride within their territory, so they fight super hard in there. So if I can somehow get in there before they do, not sure that I will, I could take the province away from them and do a little better, hopefully. Okay, we need to shift some air operations. Let's see, can we get over to there? Yes. Ground attack. Ground attack. Not sure they're doing much good because they're maybe not that well trained up, or what shall we call it? Yeah, you can support that attack. And I think I have some light bombers here. Thought there were 3 of them. Did they get shot down? Oh no, they're okay. We do have those too. these guys, the medium bombers, I haven't been using. Let's drop bombs on these guys. A lot of, you know, units there. Okay. Drop bombs on them. Okay, tropical island garrisons. Okay, Your Imperial Highness, through our research into new technology, we are now able to deploy tropical island garrison units similar to our normal island garrison units. These units lack offensive firepower and maneuver capability, but are specially trained and equipped to function in tropical or jungle environments. Their unique combination of ground and air defenses capability will pay dividends should we require their services abroad. Okay, and this is, I think, a unit, you know, I definitely use them as Germany for garrisoning places like in the Indian Ocean, but I think they're specifically designed to mimic what was going on in World War II for Japan. So yes, good. Okay, agricultural industry. We are at war. The supply of food became essential to victory. Okay, we can either do this or not do this. Lose 500 money, which we have currently plenty of money, at least for 500. Get 10,000 supplies and 100 manpower. Manpower is not currently a problem, but very well could become one. So yes, we want that. And so we're going to go with that. Autarky. No. Convoy raiders, auxiliary cruisers, commerce raiders. Yes, I don't think Japan did these, but I don't know. Oh, well, no, let me put it this way. I don't know that Japan did these. And, I think that's a tanker. Been looking at ships. I think that's a Type 2 dash, a couple other things. Allied tanker. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Not a convoy raider. But what's... Yeah. But we'll see if any of there's historically ones. I don't, like I say, I don't know that Japan did this. I do know that they were used as Japan doing this in at least one John Wayne movie, submarine movie, forgetting which one, but oh, mentioning that, would you want to see some top 10s from me? Top 10 movies. I made a video in which I looked at the top my top 10 World War II Navy movies of all time, you know, World War II set naval movies, and I put it up on YouTube. I didn't release it to the public, and because I only captured no there was one clip from some I got off of YouTube, from Das Boot. All the rest were clips from not from the movie so much, but from the trailer or the preview, you know, the official trailer / preview of the movie, which obviously has scenes from the movie. And there are very good copyright issues. And it wasn't that good that I did. And I didn't fight it. So I sort of just let it go, and it's still around. I'm not terribly pleased with the thing, and so I don't know whether I should either try to redo it. I've thought of ways I could redo it and probably get away without trying to have anybody do copyright claims against it. And I do think that I'm secure in my fair use of it, but don't know if it would really be of interest to do, though. Okay, but so I don't know that Japan did it. It doesn't seem like a major thing Japan wants to do, but we'll take that. No, we don't need coal now, and we don't need food rationing, which puts us down to 0. Very good, and so we can get that to there. Okay, okay, we're gonna stop this attack because it is not being that helpful. How long until we can... A long time, unfortunately. Dry season begins. Well, good. Okay, infantry tanks, you go to there. And then go to here. Okay, petrol racing. No, we don't need that. And amphibious unit training, good. We got our Marines trained better. I think that may be down here. 38. Let's cancel that. Let's train some our mountain units up. We have a couple in production, so that would be helpful. And we've won this battle. Good. No, they have hardly any order, but we're going to push in because I want to get that capital. For the commies get too strong there. You support the attack. Okay, cancel our agreement. Fine, Germany. Okay. You attack there. And you attack here. Reinforcing success that they're going to try to move in. We can see from here to try to hold the line, but we're also pushing. We're not having a lot of success. But like I say, at worst we can just hold once we kill these pockets, which are going to take a while, but once we do that, we can hold this with just 2 provinces, and we can probably outhold most Chinese attacking units that are likely to do that. I still have a fairly decent sized force here, but I'm trying to save that either for a Shanghai area or come down here somewhere, attack. Now let's take a quick look at our naval operations. Okay, so enemy convoy there, enemy convoy sunk there. Another one there. Okay, so we're sinking some there, and we're sinking a couple down here, 2 down there. Okay, so we're doing some good with our naval operations. I think we've sunk the great bulk of the Chinese fleet. And no, we don't need scrap metal right now. Yeah, let's push into here. Okay, formation of the 10th Army Corps. Okay, shall we form the 10th near Tokyo? Japanese 10th Army was formed on the 20th of October 1937 under the Imperial Japanese quarters. Okay, let's do this. Okay, you're going there, you're come here, and you guys can come down here. Let's push into there, into there. Good, and here we're seeing very much the good effects of pushing fast and deep. Okay, yeah, only one more because these guys are gonna come here. Yeah. Don't want to get cut off. And mountain HQs, very good. Wrong tap. And we need to get 45, we need to get 50, and we have 45, so 5 more land battles fought, and we can start doing that, and that's at 100, that's very good, and really help with that time between attack. Okay, I think just basic infantry unit training would be useful. Oh, we've got all these damn head. Okay, you retreat out. You retreat out. Don't stay in the battle. Just get out. Leave it to these guys. If they were to take this province, it won't be the worst thing, and actually maybe a good thing because it'll dilute their abilities. Will be able to hammer them hard instead of have them concentrated. You keep moving forward. You keep on this attack. Okay, you guys go to there, and we'll send these guys. Sort of replace and reinforce there. Somebody got our blueprints. What are the Soviet? We give them money for crude oil. How far? Decline. Oh, major victory. Where do we get our major victory? Down here. Okay, these guys have been battling a defensive battle for the longest time. Okay, let's look at terrain. Urban city fighting. Well, they may be shattered, so let's... No, not you, but you go into here. What do they look like? No, they're not shattered. Still defending. Okay, they're gonna stop immediately because I don't want them to shatter. Yes, let's get mountain HQs. How long until you can attack? 0 hours. That means you can attack now. That's where I wanted to send you. What do we ever get now? Haven't gotten them yet. Well, let's attack here. And let's attack here. Now let's come to here and then down to there. And these guys can support this attack up here. Oh, so there is still a bit of a Chinese Navy. Looks like it exists of a light cruiser and a liner. Well, since these guys are taking so long, we're going to move these guys up to here and then attack that way. Communist guerrillas have risen in occupied territory. Where in the hell do communist guerrillas rise? Oh, here? Is this where they're thinking they were rising? Okay, you join that attack. What's a terrain like mountainous? Now I may, and I did for various reasons. I didn't do Third Reich events, though it did cross my mind to add it for here because had some events for Manchukuo. A few of them you might see as Japan, a few of you wouldn't see. And because we just had the event, you know, communist Chinese guerrillas rise up. I had seen in a game communist guerrillas had risen up in Taiwan and taken it over, Formosa, Taiwan, whatever. And I made an event called Taiwan is Japanese and remove cores from China, or Chinese cores from Taiwan. Not that they shouldn't have it, but because the AI didn't leave any troops of any good amount to hold this island, so I think they may have had a garrison like down here or something, just to stop communist revolts there, which I thought was quite reasonable to stop. Okay, well, we are battling their liner and won without sinking it. but... And it did cross my mind to try to make a special version with just the Chinese, Japanese type events. Okay, these guys have been reinforced with our militia unit there. Move some of these headquarters up to where we can attach them to some cavalry units. And yes, we want the damn capital. Closer HQ. There we go. Yeah, these guys are the battle commander. They'll be more effective. Okay, well, good. Oh, and they're bombing the liner too. Okay. England complains while bombing Chinese targets in Shanghai. We hit a car carrying Britain's ambassador. Okay, sorry. I know there isn't, but I really wish we could have for something like this. You know, because we can look here and see, you know, bombing. Look to see if we've bombed even anywhere in this region for an event like that to fire, because the various powers were very sensitive around their concessions, much less worried about just things in general. They're still trying to move around there somewhere. Okay, counterattack right into there. Okay, well that'll get them all cut off, at least from the land, not maybe from the sea. So let's... Well, I should have gotten one of the HQs. Let's push into this city now. I know it isn't suffering from a lack of supply, but I do want to cut... Well, I say I want to. I sort of don't want to, because I'd love for the Chinese to keep trying to supply it and we sink their convoys. That would be a good thing. Okay, well, we got some more Tactical bombers. Okay, there we go. Reasonably good. Tropical island garrisons. I don't know that we need them yet. Okay, let's do something sort of not things that I'm not used to doing. Start off with an infantry regiment, which at 9,000 people, that's really, you know, 3 regiments of 3 battalions each. Let's throw in an infantry tank, because if you will note, the speed of these infantry tanks are basically the same as the infantry, if not a little slower. But so we're not trying to build a fast unit, so we're not trying to do motorization. So we're going to do reconnaissance, of course. We're going to put in engineers. I'm sort of thinking of this as taking cities and things like that. We're going to do horse transport, yeah, divisional headquarters, oh, and artillery, regular artillery. I think that's what we're going to do there. That way we have a good sort of, you know, bashing into some of these urban type places here. And I don't know how long it's going to exactly be until we're done doing that in China or not. And then the unit may be useful in bashing into some place like India as well. Okay, and up here, I guess we will support with them. Okay, you come down to here. Okay, one there, good. Okay, League of Nations condemns Japan's actions in China. And Japan was, I would say, quite honestly confused by this. I definitely talked about racism before in regarding Japan and other Asians and whatever, but Japan definitely did feel that they were being racially treated badly, and that is true. They were. The Japanese seem, and again, even though I am a Californian, I'm far from a complete expert on it, and it may just be highlighting Japan because I've been looking into Japan, and Japan was complaining about it and then started a war with us. But there seems to be more limitations on Japanese immigration into California than Chinese. I say seems to because I also know at some point, I think they kept, they didn't allow Chinese women to immigrate to the U.S. for at some point. They wanted the railway workers to help build the railways primarily, transcontinental railways. But they didn't necessarily want to have a, I don't know, a permanent colony of Chinese moving into California, which was the main and only state on the West Coast. California becomes a state just before the American Civil War, so And for a long time, it's the only state out on the West Coast. So it's the only one with a state government. Everything else is territorial governments, which is federally run. So I think for a while they banned women coming in. I could be wrong about that. But Japan felt that keenly with the U.S. Limitations on, like for a while in San Francisco, the Japanese had to go to a single special school. They couldn't intermix with white students. Again, I don't know how the Chinese were being treated at the same time. I just have read about the Japanese complaining about them being treated badly. And in the olden days, they didn't go, oh, Asians or non-whites. They were only concerned about their own ethnic group. So they definitely felt some of that and some other stuff, but they also felt that they were one of the great nations in the world, and they had basically, as a co-equal partnership, had been exploiting China, was part of the Boxer Rebellion suppression operations, including the march to the relief of the foreign legations in Peking. Great movie, 55 Days at Peking, starring Charlton Heston. Recommended highly if you want to know about 19th century and China. Will educate you a lot. I'm sure it's skewed in some ways, but I do recommend it highly. And so Japan sort of has had this sort of, and it's also, was in World War I with the Allies on the Victoria side and even defeated Russia. So it's sort of kind of like thinking, yeah, we're Asians. We know you're racist, but so are we. Not that big of a deal mostly. We're, this thing. And hey, we need an empire too. We're sort of late to this empire thing. You've got empires. We need an empire too. And they really got confused with them being told no, they can't have an empire. No, you can't just go invade countries and take territories. They really got confused over this. And I'm quite serious about the term that I'm using, confused over this. They expected to be able to do so because others had done it before them. And they're just the latest ones coming along and doing it. They didn't realize, one, things had changed. Post-World War I, things had changed. Growing empires, fresh, new growing empires, was not really the thing anymore. When they were carving up, including for Japan, it was League of Nations mandate protection. It wasn't Palestine and Syria to the French and the British that's going to be their colony forever. No, it was, they're going to administer it for now because, you just kicked out the Ottoman Empire, and we'll bring along these people that will eventually, become independent states. Now, the Japanese, they're sort of, in a way, seeing through this in that the Europeans were still exploiting the situation, but they also didn't seem to get, these coming out of the British, and I think to a lesser extent out of the French, the idea of do-goodism. We're doing good. We're, bringing enlightenment to the dark continent of Africa, if you will. It's that kind of, they see them as doing good. And they see these people as, through various terms, various ways, as lesser people that they're trying to lift up. And once these people are satisfactorily lifted up, then they can go on their own way. At least that's sort of conceptually the idea. And maybe in the lifting up process, there's going to be an indoctrination. And when they withdraw and leave, and we do see this in Africa and many other places to this day, places, former French African colonies still often primarily do business with French companies. Not that other nations don't come in there, not that you don't have Russian or Chinese nations in, say, former French African colonies, but there is still a lot of business. And so they're sort of thinking that, yeah, once, Palestine or Syria becomes independent, yeah, they're still going to, have a because, you know, we're going to educate them and indoctrinate them. They didn't quite maybe say indoctrinate, but made, you know, that sort of thing. They'll have good positive feelings for us, and especially the elites there will, because the elites will be the elites because we helped them be elites, you know, supported them in their status. So they'll be beholden to us. So the Japanese didn't quite get all of this. And you may be going, oh, Gamer, that's a real racist point. They understood, or that. Well, yeah, I'm sure the actual diplomats that were sent over to the Versailles Conference and treaties and all this stuff, and some of these Japanese, you know, that were traveling and living in the West and spoke English and spoke French and spent a lot of time, sort of understood at least some levels of these nuances. But that doesn't mean that the Japanese newspaper editors and the Japanese politicians and other people who had never left Japan understood this at all. Okay? And not that they don't then read some of this in the Japanese newspaper, but people don't, you know, people don't always say what they mean or mean what they say. So, you know, and once it's being translated and put in the newspapers, and I know that there was a lot of agendas in Japanese newspapers, a lot. The newspapers may not be, even into their to their normal ability, honestly conveying what's going on correctly. So, and this sort of for Africa, and this was one thing actually I didn't know until just very recently, that what really sort of brought on the final scramble for territorial control in Africa was I'm forgetting the exact term. Let's call it effective control, but it's something else. Effective something else, I think did. But effective control for well, okay. When the U.S. government bought the Louisiana Purchase from the French, which was sort of watersheds of certain rivers, in which neither the French nor the Americans quite knew what some of the, you know, just where the boundaries based on some of the rivers were going to be. But bought the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon for a lot of cash. They didn't quite, you know, just, you know, because if it's one of these rivers here based on the board, you know, is it this river? Is it this river? You know, and but where do they go? You know, they don't know whether, if it's this river, does it go, you know, just up to here, or does this river go all the way over to here? You know, how, you know, they didn't quite know. That's why they sent Lewis and Clark on the expedition. But they bought all this territory from them. Now, of course, to some degree, and I think even within it, just where, you know, it was, they actually had 54-40 or fight, which is a bit further north. The U.S. was trying to claim up higher into Canada. Basically, it would be erasing most all the inhabited parts of Canada west of the Great Lakes. But, you know, there was sort of buying a bunch of unknown land that, and as part of this, which the rest down here was Spanish territory, and Spain had for a while owned Louisiana. It sort of had been French, turned over to Spain, back to the French, and then the Americans bought it. So the Spanish sort of kind of agreed upon these borders because they were sort of the borders of the Louisiana territory. And again, they didn't know where the borders were either, in the sense of follow rivers or watersheds. You know, watershed is, take a ridge line here. Does the water flow into, like, to the Pacific or the Atlantic? Obviously pointed at the opposite ones, but it could be this river and all of this watershed, meaning, so pick this river. It's not just, well, where is this river versus its river spars, but it's all of the watershed. Any water that, anywhere that if you were to pour out in a bucket or to rain, if it were eventually to get to this river, which could be, any of these things, it's part of this territory. But if it goes this other way, it's Spanish territory kind of thing. And the Spanish sort of had agreed, to this territorial claim in which Texas was part of Spain and Louisiana Purchase was French, and that was going to America. But neither of them had effective control over this territory. But they sort of kind of agreed upon what the territories were. And when Lewis and Clark popped out over here, I think the Russians may have already gotten down here or not. I'm not quite sure. I think so. I know I read the book by Stephen Ambrose, who also wrote a lot of World War II stuff, but it's been a long time. And of course, the Spanish were coming up. The Russians get down into this part eventually in California. The Spanish are moving up along here. So more or less, most people agree where Lewis and Clark plop out at the Pacific Ocean. That's in foreign non-U.S. territory. They're not invaders. They're just explorers who ended up, were just sort of, not just exploring the limits of U.S. territory, but just sort of seeing what it's here and then, made it to the ocean. And that was to some degree how the situations had been in Africa. But they put in this effective control thingy. And that's sort of where you get, Togo here and other things, is that they say, no, it's not just that you've shown up somewhere and planted a flag and claim, we control all the territory up this river. Everybody's going to accept it. No, you have to effectively control that territory. Just because you planted a flag down here doesn't mean you get to control all the way up into here. So you had to have effective control. So this really pushes people, and the big sort of conflict that never breaks out into violence, partially because Portugal is somewhat of an ally of Britain in many things. Portugal wants to connect Angola and Mozambique and do this. The British want to connect north-south this way. Obviously, you can't do both. The Portuguese are, so they're trying to, instead of just controlling along the coastal areas and whatever, they're trying to push in territories, and the British are trying to push north to effectively control it. So that's sort of why they scramble for Africa, and particularly is to gain effective control. So you could no longer have, Chief so-and-so with his African nation, and I want to sort of call it that, big group of people, not just a tribe, but a big group of people, big ethnic group of people that may have sub-chieftains and may have, he may be considered a local king, and, have them in good, peaceful relations, whether with the Belgian Congo, less likely there, but maybe peaceful relations with the Portuguese or with the British and whatever. That's no longer good enough. You have to actually effectively control it. So you have to come in and either overthrow the king and his government and take over, or have his king acknowledge you as his overlord and allow, people in for it to be effective control. You don't have to have a policeman on every street corner, as it were, or in every village or African tribal city or whatever, because some of these things are getting pretty big. I don't want to mean that they were small villages, but you don't have to have a policeman in every one, but you have to have that if you show up and them acknowledging, we're British tribe or whatever, and of course they're not bothering us now, but and so they've had this, so this pushed in at times that they went in and had to shoot up a bunch of locals who otherwise they could have for generations maybe had been peacefully coincided while continuing missionary and other contacts and maybe peacefully bring them in. They had to push in for effective control. Well, this is in the 19th century. Okay, and just as the Japanese are sort of starting to wake up to the world that this is going on. Well, coming around to the middle now, 1930s, 40s, Japan wants to get an empire. Well, the rest of the world has decided we're no longer doing that. Just going in and getting empire because we have guns to do so. Oh, sure, there are cannibalistic headhunter type tribes in here that, civilized humanity isn't going to allow to exist. The tribe can either be wiped out, and you go, well, isn't that just as bad? well, we'll stop wiping you out once you stop eating your neighbors. I mean, you know, it's, and a lot of them, you know, they come in and they shoot them up a bit, teach the locals that yes, these white-skinned people with their guns can come in and kill all of you. It's not just the 5 guys that showed up 10 years ago. There's really hordes of them that can show up, and so they realize, oh, we're going to lose this war. So, oh, all we have to do is stop eating people. Okay, and things are like that worked out. I don't think there's too many cannibals left in this part of the world. Though I could be wrong, I don't think there are. And so, you know, it's this, shall we say, spread of civilization. Yeah, we're still sort of doing that, but that isn't what's going on up here. So Japan is really sort of confused by why can't we have an empire? We have guns, we have machine guns, we can go in and take the territory. We're not taking your territory directly, but we're going in to take some territory. And up until basically almost this moment, because they see very much that Britain is a big power player in the League of Nations, and maybe Britain, and I don't know all the League of Nations rules, because I don't think they had a Security Council kind of thing, in which within the Security Council there was the ability to veto a thing, and Britain did not even vote against it in the general League of Nations vote, and Britain had been Japan's big ally. Britain had been playing the great game against Russia over India, Afghanistan, these parts of the world. Britain had fought the Crimean War against Russia, so Russia was sort of, you know, the big sort of wannabe contained group here. And so when Japan goes to war with Russia, Britain's not upset. It's not, but it's not, you know, yeah, you should go conquer Russia, but it's not upset. You're fighting, you're containing Russian expansionism, great Japan. And so, you know, you have that. And then the First World War, actual allies. Britain had been training, been the primary European power to train and set up the modern Japanese Navy. So Japan looks at Britain as a strategic partner and ally. And I really don't think Japan, at least starting out, is really looking at conquering all of China. They're trying to get pieces, chunks. Oh, I didn't realize we had this up here. You go and take that. Take pieces and chunks out of China. But I think they also realize, whether it's the size of the population or simply the size of the country, they're not going to get all of it. They may get big chunks of it. So the idea of Hong Kong and sort of British regions and even, you know, stuff going on in Shanghai, yeah, that's fine. You guys get your piece too, but we want our piece, you know, a big chunk of it too, and we'll be satisfied with an empire. Japan, I very much believe, at least started this whole thing, World War II. They are sort of the starters of it, more so than Germany, though Germany starts it in Europe. They're not looking to not even have any real concept of wanting to be, you know, world conquerors. They're not trying to set up man in the high castle. It's not even in their thinking. And even once they go to war with the U.S., there's a lot of Japanese resident in Hawaii. Maybe they might think that they want to get Hawaii, who's not yet a state. Maybe they, you know, once they're going to it, maybe they want to set up a protectorship in the Philippines and whatnot. But that's only later thinking, even that. They're just trying to carve out an empire to live in coexistence with the other empires. They're not the Soviet Union, which is trying, because they do so. They effectively control the communist parties in every country. And so they're for the Communist International, the Comintern, and would like to eventually, through their communist parties, create world revolution, whether the final world capital is in Moscow or in some other place, I don't know. Now, of course, you get Stalin. He is more nationalistic in many ways, but is still trying to spread communism internationally. But he is a bit more, because he's more pragmatic. He supports nationalist China against communist China until at least midpoint of World War II, if not after World War II, that he switches his support. But he is pragmatic. Now, of course, you remember, especially in the 20s, the Republic of China is a very revolutionary regime, and it starts out under Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen, the communists are a faction within his nationalistic movement. Eventually, the other nationalists try to butcher all the communists, and they don't succeed, and so the communists go into resistance from the other nationalists. But so, you know, Soviet Union's already on a world conquest bent, but not in a Napoleonic or Hitlerite type, let's all do it in one generation. And we see even post war, you know, Stalin's just trying to get what he can get and create buffer zones and try to indoctrinate and control and eventually absorb. Obviously absorbs the Baltic states and bits of Romania, but you know, he's looking to expand slowly, sort of like the Roman Empire. So he's looking at world conquest slowly. Hitler's sort of looking at world conquest slowly, fast. I don't know. We can discuss that. But those are different types of things. Japan isn't, especially in the 1930s, is not looking at that. They're looking at getting chunks, signing peace treaties, organizing up the chunks, getting them going under, you know, Chinese or under Japanese rule, and then maybe expanding from there. But not, and especially the Navy, more so than the Army. The Navy vehemently does not want to go to war with Britain, and the only reason they end up going to willing to go to war with Britain, sort of in the long run view, is because Britain looks like in 41 Germany's going to defeat the Soviet Union, and Germany's going to defeat Britain, so Britain is weak in the Pacific, and that Britain, they totally believe that they, you know, sink a few ships, take Singapore, take a few other stuff, then Britain's going to come and go, well, let's negotiate a peace treaty, and, you know, maybe get Singapore back, but acknowledge British control over Borneo and Borneo's oil, and maybe over some more of the Dutch East Indies to get some more rare material types things, rubber and other things. And so, you know, they really think they're going to get, and acknowledge at least some of the territorial gains in China that's now Japanese territory. They really think they're going to get that. That's in their view of it, very much so. They do not think that they have to defeat Britain and plant a flag in London. Even the Germans don't have to plant a flag in London for Japan to be locally victorious and then sign a peace treaty, which Japan may give up some of its gains, but to keep other essential gains and get recognition from Britain, you know, that like, Indochina is now Japanese and no longer French, you know, and get all this recognition so that once the world settles down, whoever wins in Europe, it's already settled, because even if, say, Britain defeats Germany eventually, maybe with America's help, they've already acknowledged Japan's gains, and that's what also they think they're going to get with America. But obviously this doesn't work out. So Japan is really confused by some of this stuff. They really just don't understand the cultures and the people of other parts of the world. And again, I want to say clearly, I'm sure that there are individuals that do understand this. And one of them to some degree is Yamamoto, more so in the American sense. But he is a major factor in Japanese politics, but not the primary factors. And he loses out. Okay, so yes, we'll take that. Well, we won't take that. We get blamed for that. And I don't know if we'll have an event here soon that we walk out. And Japan might have stayed inside the League of Nations had Britain and maybe a few other of their key allies support them, kind of thing. But when none of their key allies supported them in the League of Nations, that's when they walk out. This time now is only when they really starting to move towards an alliance with Germany. Only now. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Please post questions, comments, suggestions, corrections. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.